very small rear wheel. They could have done with something a bit bigger like that, maybe. Oh, I don't know.
You can tell it was the 1980s. These things wouldn't be very exciting now, but obviously...
months. Or so... Well, what would life be without going down the market? And it has been certainly very productive in that department, because I have found a fair few goodies. And I think we'll start off with this corgi. It is a corgi. Oh yes, it's quite a late corgi as well. This is kind of towards the end of the corgi owned, well, the Metoy owned period, and pretty much when it's slotted over to Hot Wheels or Mattel, I'm sure they took this casting and they used it themselves, because there is the opening bonnet and revealing its lovely engine bay. Yeah, I kind of had to have it really, mainly because I do collect Corvettes. These Corvette Stingrays, I love them. All years, periods, marks, doesn't really matter. Different brands is where it's at for me now on this one, and I don't think I've ever seen this one before. So it's an unusual one, to say the least. I think this is the, was it a C5 possibly? I'm going to say this is a C4. Probably wrong there. Who knows? It's a Corvette from the 80s. The 80s Corvette. It's got to be a C4, isn't it? Wow. Interesting. Would have been nicer with a red interior perhaps for those lights. But that is definitely a cool feature. Next up, it's one of these. Oh yes, the old Dodge Challenger. I don't think I'd seen a blue one before, and of course the second I found it, these started popping up all over the internet, on Instagram as usual. It is a nice piece. It's a made in China, so it's quite a late model. It says Superfast still on the base though, Matchbox Superfast. It's all going on. Of course it was a Superfast car. It's got the kind of late Superfast wheels on it though, with that big printed inserts, but they are definitely Superfast in their orientation. A little bit low sprung, and there you go. Most commonly found with the old Toyman markings. Very nice piece. These last three are very cool too actually. I'll start with this one. This is a Mazda, of course, it says it on it, RX-7. I think it's a 96 model. Doesn't say much on the base, but if you look on the base there, we have the Meichong Toy Company, MC Toy. That's Meichong. I call that, that's like a transformer symbol, but it's actually their Meichong company logo. And that's a very interesting little Mazda. It's quite large scale actually. When you compare that Mazda to the Corvette, it gives you an idea. The Corvette is around about 164, probably nearer, yeah, pretty slightly bigger than 164. So that's going to be around about 155 scale. Pretty nice. Nice and cheap too. Feels cheap, you know, that's the thing about these Maestos. They, when you compare it to the old Matchbox, they do feel cheap. I mean, that feels cheap. This feels a little bit more expensive than the Corgi, to be fair. Next up, then we'll have a look at this lovely Porsche, and it really is lovely. I mean, I'm a big fan of blue, as you know. It's sporting. You could get these confused with Matchbox wheels. but they're definitely Maisto style. It's got the proper Mei-Chong MC toy on the base, 911 turbo. Quite a nice piece actually for Porsche lovers out there of all brands. This is a nice one to get, and I'm sure lots of people out there probably have picked this one up over the time because it is such a nice looking piece. It's got the big old American bumpers on the back though. Not that desirable. I mean, I know that Americans probably don't even like them. It hasn't got the big bumpers on the front though, thank goodness. Well, they are quite rubbery and chunky. Well, there you go. There's your Porsche. I like it. And the final piece is this one here. Now, when I first saw it, I thought it was the Corgi. And there's, I think it's Corgi that do one, but I think their one is the Jaguar. This is the Porsche. The Porsche 956. Fantastic front end, actually. But this rear end suffering severely from very small rear wheel. Probably could have done with something a bit bigger like that, maybe. Oh, I don't know. But there you go, nice tampos though. Bilstein, very famous brand. Does something to do with engines. A little bit squishy on the ink. But overall, a nice little looking Porsche. Very cool. God, nearly forgot to show you this piece here. A little extra that Mark sent me. I think you've probably seen this already on one of Mark's insert videos. This lovely little Renault 4 van. It says it's a 155 scale. That's interesting. Let's just quickly grab that one there. See that? That RX-7 is huge. Huge. Even though all the van's very small. Well, whatever way, it is what it is. But yeah, this is in extremely good condition. A few minor little flea bites there, but to be fair, that is very, very nice. Thank you so much. A lovely, lovely little extra there from Mark, from our trade. Beautiful little French firefighting Renault. Love it. It's even got little, looks like inserts there for the headlamps. Absolutely brilliant. Very nicely done. Love it. Thank you so much, Mark. Brilliant piece.
Little mini film here, just to show you what happens when you become a slightly obsessive collector. I bought this, well, I didn't actually, I've got subscribed to this magazine called Model Collector, mentioned it before, and in this current copy there is an article about the Corgi Ford Sierra. He says, he's flicking through, it's in here somewhere. Was it in this one? There it is. Okay, sorry about that. So this is the talking about the first and last, in which Steve Coles talks about the first issue of the Ford Sierra that Corgi did in around about 1983-84, and then what happened to it as it came to the end of its life in the 1990s. Okay, so you can, you know, read about that one way or another, I'm sure. But as a result of seeing that, I thought I'll have a look on eBay. Can I find one of these early issues? And look, I did. So it actually came with its original box. So I've taken it out of there. So this is from its sort of first couple of years perhaps of this coming out. It says Sierra, new range of aerodynamic fuel efficient cars from the Ford Motor Company, a car of the future designed with many novel features, and those are a unique aeroback body design, independent front and rear suspension, designed for performance and economy, impacted absorbent bumpers for safety. You can tell it was the 1980s. These things wouldn't be very exciting now, but obviously they were then. I think the original release of this, done for promotional purposes, came in a sort of more bluey sort of box, but it's a sort of crossover. But the model itself, which is obviously worth talking about, is a very nice model in terms of how they interpreted the design. I like the wheels in particular, which is a bit, you know, minutiae, but your standard corgi wheels were just a generic design, whereas these, they were thought about. So they are actually pretty much the same as the Ghia wheel trims on the real car. So what do you get for your money? Well, I actually paid £7.50 plus delivery, making £10 on this on eBay. But you get the rear lid lifts up with a nice bit of detailing there. You see it says Sierra 2.3 Ghia. Incredibly sharp casting for its age. You got a parcel shelf that comes up. So you can see inside there, he says, there you go. You got very basic rear lenses for the clusters, but does the job. You got all that detail on the bottom with the transmission, suspension, the exhaust, steering. Very good. Made in Great Britain. And on the front, again, we've got some issues here. They didn't put clear lenses in, they just put these silver units, but I had to clean off, as you can see, the indicators which are there, or your turn signals. Someone who'd had this in the past used a overhead projector pen, permanent pen, for the ambers, which, you know, did the job, but I wiped it all off with some nail varnish remover. Front doors open quite a long way out as well, and there's all your detail inside. The seats recline. I'm not going to do that now because it's a two-handed job. But, you know, back in the day, this was quite the thing. And I think it's still actually a very good model now. So, solid, as these models were. A 1/36 scale, I think it was, or thereabouts. So, yes, that's what happens when you have a copy of a magazine, you read an article, and you then look on eBay, and then before you know it, you've got it. They didn't take very long at all. I think it took about, all in all, about 3 days. So, something that you couldn't do in the past. You know, you'd see an article about a model, and then you'd think, I wonder if I can get one of those, and, well, it was pot luck. But now, thanks to the wonders of the age, you can get what you're looking for, usually, fairly quickly. Bit dangerous, because you spend money sometimes without realising what you're doing. But then, ain't that what it's all about when you've got a hobby?
Well, I've got a few more market finds for your delectation today. First up, I'm going to show you this fantastic Lone Star, made in England, Roadmaster Impey Supercars. It's an Imperial in the scale, the unusual scale of 173, which makes that slightly smaller than 172 scale. Now, Impey cars made by Lone Star. Lone Star is the key here. Lone Star used to make toy cap guns, little cowboy pistols, rifles, all sorts of good stuff, and they used to make them out of metal. And they all actually used to look like this silver base, that kind of weird. It's not quite chrome and it's not quite paint. They must have been dipped and acid treated or something interesting. But I remember the silver always used to flake off. So let's move around the car, a little bit like that door actually. The car itself is a magnificent piece. This is an Imperial from 1963. Let's have a look inside first. Now, all of these impies have the most amazing amount of detail. Some of it's brief. As you can see in this one, we've got some hair living in there. Little ant passengers perhaps have been in there, but I love that big old square steering wheel. I believe that that is actually correct. The old Imperials did have big old square steering, like a huge TV set in the front there. Any detail inside the door? Not really. So they are opening doors. Of course, that happens both sides. Kind of reminds me, the general overall look of the car reminds me of a Mercedes. Whether Imperial were going for that, I don't know. But an interesting feature for this car, and actually that's how we decided, was a 1963 car, was this front end, as well as the rear end. We'll get there eventually. As you can see, it's got both of its double diamonds headlamps. Loved how Impy used these diamond inset headlamps. A lot like the big Corgi cars and dinky cars from the late 60s and early 70s used them as well. A lovely feature. And now this one's got an opening bonnet as well, if we can get in there. And be very careful because I don't want to break it. There we go. Uses friction to hold it down. As you can see, we've got a nice little engine in there. Looks like a V8 of some sort. Actually, a surprising amount of detail just for a basic stamp. You've got your bits and bobs in there. Obviously there's no depth to it, but you can see the tops of things, and that kind of suffices quite nicely. You'd have a big old emblem on the front there normally, but that actually works nicely as something to clip onto. As you see, I haven't cleaned this car in any way whatsoever. I just left it as I found it. I suppose it could do with a nice clean. As you've probably seen inside, it needs a good hoover. So move around the back here. These are the wings that give it away as being the 63. Of course, the 61 had slightly higher wings and big haunches on the rear there. And for a little while, I did think it was a 60, a 61, 62. So we go around the back. Now on the older vehicles from the 50s, they had remember those spare tyre type boots? Well, this one doesn't have that, of course. And this one also doesn't have any passengers in the boot. Or squatters, which is nice. That's a plus. So there we go. That's the all the opening features. And another nice feature from this of this car is the tyres and wheels. It's got separate hubs with separate plastic tyres on each hub. And also, if you notice, it's got steering. So there you go. All of that. It's all going on in such a small little piece. And I'll just stick it next to something. I'll stick it next to this Fisker Karma. Oh no, that's a Tesla. To give you an idea. Wow. Pretty small and pretty fantastic. Well, next up from the market was this. Cost me about the same price as the old Imperial, and this is awesome. This is a ice cream truck. Can you guess who it's made by? It's not made by Boddingtons. It's not, as you can see. This is made by Majorette. It's the Majorette foregone ice cream truck, and this one obviously is not made in France. Made in France stamp has been plastered over. So this is quite a late piece, probably from the early 90s. This was given away by Boddingtons to promote was part of a promotion back in the day. There you go. To promote their product, and they were selling beer. And this there was an ice cream van that featured in one of their adverts with a rather delectable young lady. I think her name was Mel something or other. She was dishing out the pints in ice cream glasses and with flakes in. But unfortunately this one is annoying because it's all in its box still. I'm not sure whether I should get it out. But there you go. It's a cool piece. It's one I've been after, an ice cream truck from Majorette. Wasn't, well, I just grabbed it. It's cool. It's selling beer. It's an ice beer truck. Awesome.
How would that car of the future be? Let us show you what it could be. The Futura. Yes, this is, I don't know what year it came out. It's made by Corgi Juniors, and it's called the Futura. A name shared with the Ford Futura, which of course the Batmobile was the basis of, concept car. But this is a very different sort of Futura. So this is really, from what I understand, an exercise done by the designers at Corgi back in probably around about 1972, I'd imagine, or 73. And it's just a complete fantasy car based on I don't know quite what, but they clearly had the opportunity to do something fun, and they came up with this. Some people may love it. I find it curious, but I don't know whether love's the right word. It is, when I got this, I got this on a sort of a deal, and I didn't realise that the black or smoked glass window insert had actually gone missing, so there should be something in there which would be faired into the body. Things to really look at, this is the amount of sort of detail they put in with these louvers at the front. You've got another sort of vent system here and all that's about. Awful graphics, and you've got some sort of intakes around the hood here, and you've got a little extraction point there at the back of that hood. We've got what appears to be either vents or lights at the back in this sort of oval shape, and we've got a wing which has seen a bit of a crease in this one, and those lovely wheels. So some people might like this sort of thing. I'd say the jury's out. I'm tempted to try and do something with it, or just leave it as an example of something that was particularly nasty. So, as I said to K5, a lot of the time on these videos we will talk in glowing terms about models and say what a wonderful thing that this model is, etc. But it's very rare that we say, gosh, isn't this a horror? And, you know, I feel bad for saying this about this poor model. Didn't do anything wrong to me, but it is pretty ghastly. So I may have some more of these as time goes on to show you, not this particular model, but other models which perhaps were not particularly nice. Or maybe you've got some yourself. Maybe you'd like to film something and send it across to K5 for insertion into...
Down at my local shop, because I just had a few minutes spare before going home. I think I just finished a night shift and I was still waiting to go to bed, but before I did that I thought I'd go and visit my shop. Well, my shop is literally just down the road. It's an excellent toy shop. There's Osborne's in Rushden, and it's an entertainer. It's from the entertainer chain, but he's very independent there, as well as being a part of the chain. And for some unknown reason he had these in stock. Now I'm not sure how new they are. Unfortunately I can't seem to find, there's a bit of English at the bottom there, but it doesn't really tell me any days or dates, so I'm not sure how long these have been in the country for. But he told me that his supplier or stockist or whoever it is had these, and was he interested in stocking them. And of course Will said, yes I am. I'll give them a go. I've got quite a few die-cast lovers that come to the shop. I don't think he was thinking specifically of me, but I came across these in his shop, and I was over the moon, and I had to tell Mark all about it, and Mark wanted one as well, so I posted off Mark something, which I'm sure you might have seen or will be seeing at some point. But we're going to have a look at these two. Both of them are little citrons. This one is very little indeed. It's a Citron E Mahari. Just going to open it up and check it out. Here we go. She's all ready to come out. I'm loving the packaging on these. Packaged as toys, which is great because they really are. But an interesting price, £3.99. That's £2 up on a little majorette. Let's see what we get for an extra £2. So here it is, the Mahari. Now, I'm not very familiar with this vehicle. It's almost like it's the first time I've seen one, to be fair. Plastic base, it's got plastic wheels, but they don't look generic in any way whatsoever. No rear windscreen there, literally just got a front windscreen. So it's kind of like a little Jeep or a buggy, sand dune type buggy. Little tailgate there. Quite interesting. This is probably a fold away roof of some sort. It looks like little slats on there. That's probably what the case is there, and it's probably got one of those cleanable interiors. Easy wipe, easy wash. And there it is, a nice little tiny Citron. Really like that. Just had to get it just to see what it was like. I believe it probably is actually in 1/64 scale, even though it doesn't say so on the base. So there's the Mahari. This one out. I think this is the one that most excited me. It was the only one on the shelves at the time. I probably will be going back to buy some more of these over the next few months, if I can, or if they're still there, I'll be picking them up. There's quite a few interesting cars and models, all different French types. Some that I've already got, which I probably won't be picking up again, and some that I've never seen before, like this one and the Mahari. I picked these two up first, of course, because I had not seen them. So this is cool. It's got it's like a moving tailgate. Yes, there it is, a lifting tailgate. And I suspect it's got a lifting, oh yes, there you go, it's got a hinged bit there. So this is a full-on, to me it looks like it's supposed to be some kind of fire vehicle. Maybe you'd put out like, I don't know, fires that need to have sand poured on them, like forest fires, or I don't know. It seems a bit crazy. It could just be a works truck in red. Nice big old blue light on the roof though. That looks to be like almost like a generic piece, because there was a few police cars there with very similar lights on top. But what I thought this van could do would be to carry my Mahari. And it does quite nicely. Yeah, of course this is called a Citron Jumper. Yep, I've never heard of that either. Just looks like a kind of transit van a bit. I actually have my little Johnny Lightning Chevy van here, and it does sit nicely next to that. It's about the same kind of size vehicle. Look at that. That's brilliant. Yeah, looks really good. So there you go, with a tipper. It's not a bipper, it's a jumper, and that's a Mahari. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta for now.